All right, then, we are looking at selected submissions for the intensity neutrality study. And you were to use gouache and use the three primaries out of the tube, the primary red, yellow, and blue. And from those, mix your secondary, and then start mixing the secondary and primary together to get the chromatic neutrals, and then finally to achieve the true neutral. So this is a study that deals with colors that are not represented on the hue circle but are created from the hue families. So the key is to achieving the true neutral is getting the secondary correct, because remember, it's the primary plus the balancing mixture of the other two primaries. So in this case, blue and yellow. That's going to give you the true neutral. So if this is too blue or too yellow, you won't achieve the gray, the true neutral. If this is too red or too blue, you won't achieve the gray. And if this is too red or too yellow, you won't achieve the gray. So all the colors that we see here between the primaries and the secondaries are legitimate colors. But in terms of our study, what we want to do is work to get the gray. And the gray would be similar to the backing that we're using. So looking at the three scales together, there should be visual similarity between the three 0% intensity, the true neutral. So each one of these has a lot of chroma. This has the most chroma in it, this has the second most proportion, and this has the least. So this still has a lot of red in it. It is fairly neutralized. It is not a true neutral. It's not a gray. If we compare this to this color, we can see that there's a lot of chroma in this. There's too much yellow in the green. This is a really pretty earth tone brown, but there's too much red in the violet. This needs to be more blue. And while this is within range for orange, it needs a lot more red to actually mix with the primary to achieve the neutral. The pacing generally, as we move from red and take the next step and the next step and then move toward the neutral, these are basically not working. They're hugging way too close to red, so the stepping there is not even. It's better from the green end. You can see that the differences between each adjacent swatch it's pretty consistent in how it changes. These are way too yellow, and these are way too violet. So we need more blue, we need more blue, we need more red. Everything else checks out. 100% saturation, 0% saturation in the center. It's labeled. We've got our color control card. Going to get rid of some of the background in this one because it's a bit distracting. Okay, looking from the red to the green, and remember green is the combination of blue and yellow. It does have enough blue in it. We're getting really close to the neutral. In fact, this is actually more neutral than this. This has a little bit too much red. The pacing from red to the neutral, this could be, it could hug a little closer to the red and this be adjusted as well. The pacing here is really slow, coming from the green into the true neutral. All in, this could use a little bit more blue. Now we've got a gray achieved here, but the orange is almost in the yellow-orange family. It's almost, it's kind of on the fence whether it's orange or yellow-orange. This actually does need a lot more red. And if we just take a look at so that is an achromatic true neutral gray. And you can see that there's a lot of yellow in this still. Even though this is highly neutralized, it is still chromatic. So it's not achieving the gray. We do need more red here in order to accomplish that. We also need more blue in this because this is way too red to mix with the yellow to achieve the true neutral. I think for pacing, this is probably the most successful. The middle scale, the blue to orange, is the most successful of the three. So we've already talked about this. This actually needs to be much more neutralized. In fact, this would probably be better served to be here. So we have the color control card. It's labeled with the saturation on the end and the 0% in the middle. Okay, of the three scales, the violet to yellow, the orange to blue both work best. The red to green, the green needs more blue. So this is pretty neutral, as is this, and is this, and this. And it's possible there may have been some adjustment in terms of maybe adding a bit more of the blue into the green. Because usually a green that is this yellow, which is almost yellow-green, is not going to allow you to achieve the true neutral. This is pretty close, so there may be some adjustment. The pacing of everything is pretty good. I would say that the yellow to the gray is less smooth or less even, and then the violet to the gray, the pacing there has some issues too. Everything's labeled properly. For craftsmanship purposes, a little more attention to making sure everything is tightly fixed to the background. It just makes a better, cleaner presentation. But the surfaces of the colors are pretty opaque and pretty smooth. So again, that was shot under a really cool light source. So made a major color shift with the correction there using the color control card. So this is nowhere near a true gray. This is a chromatic neutral. This is not neutralized enough. This would probably be step 2 and this step 3, and then step 4 would be between these two. These both have too much yellow. So the pacing on this scale needs some help. And of course that means the rate of change from one color to another. Here we have gotten really close to the true neutral. It is not very far off at all, so this is definitely within the acceptable range for the true neutral. The pacing on this is better than the one above. The green could take a little more blue, and it looks like maybe a little more blue is added here because there's more blue here than there is here, and that's not a matter of adding the red into the green. That's a matter of actually shifting and adjusting the admix of the color by adding more blue to get that. So the red to the green is the most successful. These two hang together, then this one kind of stands out. The pacing is okay. This could be a little more neutralized. Coming from the other side, this one could be just a bit more neutralized. And then the blue to the orange. This is actually more neutral in appearance than this. This has a lot of the orange in it, a lot of the red and the yellow. But really, the true neutral sits right in here between these two. So the red to green is the most successful. Craftsmanship is acceptable. The surfaces of the color swatches are opaque and smooth. The measuring and cutting could be a little cleaner. The other thing too is there's a lot of blue in this violet. There's a lot more red in the next swatch that's been neutralized. What started out here is not the same color, the same hue. This is not a direct neutralization of this. There's a lot of blue in this, and this would go a little greener in appearance with this much blue in the violet. This is within the violet range, but it does need a little bit more red. So the color control card should be positioned toward the bottom left of the project presentation. So the violet here is working fairly well. It's a good balance for the yellow. This has a little more red, and that's why we're not getting the true neutral. This has too much chroma. The green has enough blue in it, and we're really close right in here. The true neutral is probably somewhere here between these two. This is kind of glaring because it should be self-evident that this is the pure hue, the fully saturated hue, and that this is neutralized. So this needs to be repositioned there, and this needs to be repositioned there. The other thing is that this has a lot of red in it, so you're going to get a strong violet pull here. So the influence of the yellow in the orange is mitigated because of the proportional mix of, this is actually a red-orange and not an orange. This is your true neutral. So this should be here. And we could probably take this out and move this over here. This is a little bit unfortunate. When you are cutting from the backside, make sure that you're not cutting along the edge of the actual swatch. And we have the same thing here. And the thing is that these things pull the eye, and they make for a lazy presentation. So you don't want to do this type of thing when you're presenting ideas or any sort of work to a client. The other thing too, in regard to presenting to clients to sell your ideas and things like that, things need to be really pristine even when you're working digitally. A lot of times we won't see certain things. We'll leave artifacts that shouldn't be there. There'll be weird things running through a digital presentation simply because the mouse or the stylus tracked funny. And so there's a line of pixels that kind of stands out that shouldn't be there, things like that. So whether you are working in the analog, traditional manual method with traditional tools and media, or you're working digitally, always watch out for your craftsmanship. Always watch out to make sure your presentations are the best they can be. A less than stellar idea can be aided by an excellent presentation, but a high value idea will lose value via a low value or sloppy presentation. So always be mindful of the details, both in your actual designs and in how you're presenting them. So that's the end of our review. Thanks for watching.